So you can see a lot of the inflammation went down in my face. So I wanted you guys to see that. And again, they keep talking about the discoloration, which they admit exists, and they don't want to accept that I didn't change the color of my skin. You're going to see a video that I just did where I show you my legs. So my whole body is like the same color except for the discolorations, but in their minds I could have just like immersed myself in skin whitening cream and changed my whole skin color, but made it dark in certain areas. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. How would that work? It wouldn't. But that would be the thought process. So with my synthetic telepathy that they were trying to create, I would have to think like an irrational person. I wouldn't think like a sane person. So when they said that they kept observing me throughout my life, they lied, and they admit they lied, but why use lies to create synthetic telepathy? So they said that's how I'm giving them permission to do it, which is what abusers say. This is so important that I've got to let you guys know this. They speak like abusers. Abusers can commit a crime and say, oh, I committed that crime because you weren't smart. You were dumb. No, you committed that crime. You just said you committed that crime. They lie. It has nothing to do with my being smart. I'm a child. I'm a child. I'm a little girl. How can you blame a child for things? How can you blame someone who you exposed to radiation for things? The next point I want to make about that is that now they aren't giving me craft ideas because now I'm doing something else. So whatever I'm doing, then they're doing that same thing. Meaning their theory that they were giving me ideas would mean I'm not doing that thing. Not I'm doing it and then you're yelling out stuff. That's not giving me ideas. It's keeping me from focusing on what I was doing. So I created a new stand out of lids, and it can be reversed. So you could put a bigger candle in here, a different object on top of the flat side. So of course they're like, "Are you going to paint it?" Well, that's not you giving me ideas. So the whole point of this is I'm doing something and they aren't. So they said, well, then it looks like they're making me do all the work. No, it doesn't. It looks like you guys are invading my privacy and trying to come up for an excuse for doing something illegal. Their theory was that they could say that I'm part of their group if they do this. Absolutely not. You would be in my life if I were part of your group. Then their next theory is that they could say, well, this is some sort of way of giving me ideas. No, it isn't. When you call the police on people, and I'm struggling to get police reports to for this and to get restraining orders against these people, that isn't somebody you want in your life. Nobody. I would not have taken all of these steps if I wanted these people in my life. Then doing something illegal. The other big deal about this is that they said they're using stories about me that they've gotten from each other and from this system or program. I'm using the phrase the system or the program back and forth because even comments use the word program and sometimes system. You wouldn't have used that if you had gotten the stories directly from me. This is why synthetic telepathy doesn't work. They just guess what they think I'm thinking based on what I'm doing at the time. So if at the time I'm putting this together, it's like, oh, now she's thinking about whether she's going to paint it. Well, that I could be thinking about a million other things in the world. This is fake. It's a fake system. The other big deal about that is they blamed me again because this is about when an abuser, a predator gets caught being abusive or preying on a victim. In order to take that feeling off themselves, they have to put it on the victim. So the other big deal about this becomes, well, if we can say that, we are doing this together. No, it's not. Even if you think about it, if I was preyed upon by these people when I was a child in any way, that's child abuse. And they don't want to accept that because that makes them feel like, oh, I did something wrong. Yes, you did. And if you use this technology on me as a child and I didn't do anything wrong, but you tried to convince me decades later that I did, then you're still being an abuser. You haven't grown. They keep trying to say, I've changed. They haven't changed. They haven't grown as human beings. The last point I want to make is they said, well, why did I say they couldn't afford to live here? This is a co-op. It's a Mitchell-Lama co-op. It's supposed to be for middle income people. They opened it up for people who can get Section 8 and other things, but they still have to be able to pay the rent. What this was something completely different. I don't want them to confuse that with this. This was about stealing property from people who live here so that they can take over, steal equity, steal apartments. This has nothing to do with Section 8 or Mitchell-Lama. It's about people who wanted to move in with current tenants or homeowners, if you have shares, and then not leave and force them out of their homes so that they can steal the equity and not pay anything. So by the time they're ready to leave, either they've run up the equity or they can leave with that person's equity because suddenly that person doesn't have any money coming back to them. That's the crime. Thank you for watching.